Hello folks, you're on my chord finder page. I'm Michael Anderson and pianomagic.com is my website. I assume you're on the chord finder specifically to look up a chord that you don't know how to play. You have that option. The chord finder is a great tool. I don't use it, and most people that I know that perform professionally or even regularly do not use such tools because they know how chords are formed. Chords are very easy. Chords are just wonderful sounds. I just love playing chords. I think and play in terms of chords because it opens the door to so much melodic music. You'll find when you understand chords that the same chords are used over and over from one song to the next if it has a melody. Now, although there are only 3 different types of songs that you'll find in all of melodic music, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 3 is a big one, knowing how to play chords is the first step. So I'm going to assume you already know about scales. If you don't, you can look up scales in this website. I'll teach you all about it. But let's start with a basic major chord in root position, using the C chord as the example. I'm using the C chord specifically because the keyboard is laid out based on the key of C. The C to the furthest left side is called C1, D1, E1, F1, G1, A1, B1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, C8. If this is 1, and that's 2, this is B1, A1, G1, F1, E1, D1, C1. What's that one? That's B. This key stinks. It's called BO or B0. B flat 0 and there's a 0. Have you ever been called a 0? I have. This is it right there. The first key to the left on a full-size piano. And that was the A minor scale. The key of C uses the C scale, which is the only scale that uses only white keys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 3, and 5 of any major scale form the major chord. The combination or the formula to find a major chord is first to play the beginning tone, name it, C. Then go a whole step to the third tone, a half step, whole step to the 5th tone. This is the root position, root being the low tone. The low tone names the chord in a root position chord. A root position basic major chord. There are 12 different tones in each set. C1 to B1, C2 to B2, C3 to B3, C4 to B4. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Each one of those tones has its own major chord. C major, D flat major, D major, E flat, E, F, F sharp, also called G flat, G, A flat, A, B flat, B, and C. To make a minor chord out of any major chord, flat the center tone of a root position chord. So for C minor, you flat the middle tone. Flat means go down 1/2 step, which puts us on a black key. Here's a D chord. To make a minor out of the major, flat the center tone. Here's a G chord. To make a minor, flat the center tone. Here's the A chord. How am I going to make a minor chord? Flat the center tone. B flat major, make a minor, flat the center tone. Okay, back to the root position chord. The middle tone, we know, can go down by a 1/2 step. It can also go up by a 1/2 step. When you sharp the middle tone of a basic major chord, you're creating a suspension chord. Suspended chord, suspension chord. This is a C sus. Some people call it a C sus4, specifically because The suspension tone is the fourth tone of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Suspension chords resolve down to the root position chord. Here's a C suspension as an arpeggio. Back to the major chord. Very often, you'll move from the C sus4 to the sus2. What's the sus2? Well, instead of the sus4, you play the 2. How does it get its name? It's the second tone of the C scale. Here's a D. To make a D suspension, sharp the middle tone, up 1/2 step. If we're going to do a D sus2, you're going to play the second tone of the scale. And then it resolves to the basic major chord. And same thing for the F chord. To make a suspension, sharp the middle tone. It can resolve right down to the basic major chord. Or it can go to the sus2, to the root position chord. Back to the C root position chord. The 5 tone. We can flat the 5 tone to create what's called a flat 5 chord. Duh. Really hard stuff. To play a flat 5 of any chord, flat the 5 tone. Here's an F chord. To play an F flat 5, flat the 5. A G major chord can turn into a flat 5 by flatting the 5. Back to the C root position chord. We can also sharp the 5 tone, which means take it up 1/2 step. This is called an augmented chord. How would you use an augmented chord? Augmented chords work exactly the same as 7th chords. They work additional ways as well, but the most common way is to treat it exactly like a 7th chord. We'll get to that in a moment. Here's a root position chord. We can flat the top 2 tones to create what's called a diminished chord. Sometimes diminished chords resolve back to the basic major chord, but usually the diminished chords resolve up to the major chord a 1/2 step higher. B diminished tends to resolve up to the major chord a 1/2 step higher. F diminished. Here's the F chord. Flat the top 2 tones. We've created an F diminished chord. Where's it going to go? It will usually resolve up 1/2 step to the major chord. Those cover the chord variations. Sometimes you see a number associated with a chord. Numbers refer to scale tones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You don't see that. It's the same as the 7. 15 is the octave. So we stop at 13. Chords are based on odd letters of the alphabet. The musical alphabet is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Odd letters of the alphabet form chords such as C, skip D, E, skip F, G. To play a major 7, you add the 7th scale tone. To play a major 9, you add the 9th tone of the scale, which happens to be the 2nd tone 1 octave higher. An octave is 8 tones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so we have a C major 7. When you use the B that's part of the scale, the 7th scale tone, you formed what's called a major 7 chord. Major 7 chords have that very relaxing sound. A major 9 exists only in the presence of a major 7. If I just play a C chord and the 9th tone, we can say this is a C plus 9. The plus 9 tells me it's an octave higher than the 2nd tone of the scale. But a C major 9 depends on a major 7. A C major 11 has the 7, 9, and 11. The 11th tone of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12, 13. A C major 13 includes the major 7, the 9, 11, and 13. Often you'll see a flat 9. This is the 9. When you flat, you go down a half step. You also see a flat 13 sometimes. And sometimes you see a sharp 11. So this is a C major 7, flat 9, sharp 11, flat 13. When you see a chord, all you have to do is look at the order of the numbers. The quality of the chord will be major or minor. If we're using the major 7, which is the 7th scale tone, then you'll always see the number 7 with an MAJ in front of it, or a capital M. The most common 7th chord, though, is not a scale tone. Sometimes people call it the minor 7, which is a half step lower. I wouldn't call it the minor 7, just call it the 7th. It's so common that when people say play a 7th chord, what they mean is to add the tone 1 whole step below the octave. So here's the root position chord. Here's the octave, 1 whole step down, skips a key, puts us there. So C7, C, E, G, B flat. This is the only chord that really makes you feel like you need to go somewhere else. Where's it going to go? A 7th chord wants to resolve to the chord named by its own 4th scale tone. I'll say that one more time. A 7th chord, such as C7, wants to go to the next chord, and it will be named by its own 4th scale tone. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to go to an F chord. So C7 wants to go to F. G7, whole step down from the octave. G7 wants to go to the chord named by its own 4th scale tone. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is C. G7 wants to go to C. Here's the F chord. Here's the octave. A whole step down gives us F7. Where does F7 want to go? F7 wants to move to the chord named by its own 4th scale tone. What's the 4th scale tone of F? There's F. A whole step to the 3rd tone. A half step to the 4th tone. This is B flat. F, G, A, B flat. So F7 wants to move to B flat. Go back to C7. Sometimes you'll see a C9. The 9 is the same as the 2, but an octave higher. The 9 only exists in the presence of the 7. How does it work? A C9 works exactly like a C7. Where does the C7 want to go? C7 wants to go to the chord named by its own fourth scale tone. So a C7 wants to go to F. A C9 also wants to go to F. Here's a C9. To play a C flat 9, we're going to flat the 9. Where does the flat 9 want to go? The same place the 7th goes, because even the flat 9 only exists in the presence of the 7th. Therefore, it acts exactly like a 7th chord. So what chord comes after C7? F. Let's look at C7, 9, C11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. With the 7, the 9, and the 11, where does that want to go? It only exists in the presence of the 7. So where does C7 want to go? It wants to go to the F chord. C11 wants to go to F. How about C11 flat 9? Where does that want to go? Same place, F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's a 7, the 9, the 11, the 13. Where does a C13 want to go? C13 only exists in the presence of the 7. So where does the 7 want to go? A C7 wants to go to the chord named by its own fourth scale tone. Therefore, a C13 wants to go to an F chord. What if we're playing a C7 flat 9, sharp 11, flat 13? Where does it want to go? All these cool things, flat 9, sharp 11, flat 13, they only exist in the presence of the 7. So it's going to resolve to the chord named by its own fourth scale tone. All these chords resolve to F, or a cousin of F, such as D minor, or A minor. Pretty cool. Now, since we're talking about sevenths, let's go back and pick up with the diminished. A C major chord can change to a C diminished by flatting the top two tones. Let's play a C7, C, E, G, B flat. To play a diminished 7, you're going to flat the top three tones, which means E goes to E flat, G goes to G flat, and B flat goes to B double flat, which we know is A. Where does the diminished chord want to go? It depends. Diminished chords are cool chords. They can go a lot of different places. There are only 3 different diminished chords. This one, and this one. And that plays all 12. How? Well, look at this. Every tone in a diminished 7 names another diminished 7 chord, because each of those chords contains the same tones. Here's a C diminished 7. Let's put the C on top. Now we have an E flat diminished 7. We'll improve it. Raise everything by a half step. That's an E7, an E flat 7. There's the E flat chord. Here's the octave, one whole step down, puts us on the D flat. Make everything a diminished 7. All right, take this tone, put it up top. Now we have an F sharp diminished 7 or a G flat diminished 7. Take that tone, put it on top. Now we have an A diminished 7. And put that on, take that tone, put it on top. And we're back to the C diminished 7. So you can use diminished 7th chords as transition chords to send you into another key. Or you can simply use them as a regular diminished 7, which raises you to the major chord a half step higher. Or we can take the C diminished 7 and use it to change keys by thinking of it in terms of the E flat diminished 7, raise it to E. Or, considering it might be an F sharp diminished 7, we can take it to a G chord. Or, considering that it might be an A diminished 7, played in first inversion, it would take us a half step higher, which would put us on the major chord of B flat. Interesting, is it not? I think it is. Chords are pretty simple. If you use the chord finder above, you will see that there are some pretty complicated chords, but they're really not complicated if you think in terms of what they really are. Major chords, a half step down, a flat to center tone. You get the minor chord, sharp to center tone. You get a suspension chord. Flat, the 5 tone, you get a flat 5, which functions exactly the same as a 7th chord. How does a 7th chord want to work? A 7th chord wants to resolve to the tone named by its own 4th scale tone, which is F. So a C flat 5 wants to go to F chord. Kind of a weird sound. Let's play a C7, flat 5. And now it's going to go to F just fine. Have you ever heard of a tritone? The tritone chord is 3 whole steps above the root. Whole step, whole step, whole step. It's a major chord, so an F sharp or G flat major. A tritone wants to resolve down by 1/2 step. A diminished chord wants to resolve up by 1/2 step. So just knowing where your chords move, where they want to move, that's extremely important. It saves a lot of brain space when you're playing. If you don't know how to play by ear or don't know how to play by chords alone, just think in terms that if you're playing a diminished chord, it looks like you're going to go up a 1/2 step to a major chord. If you're playing a diminished 7th, you could end up in some other key pretty easy. It's a good transition chord, or it'll take you simply up a 1/2 step to a major chord. Augmented chords function exactly the same as a 7. A C augmented wants to go to F. A C7 wants to go to F. A C7 that's augmented, a C augmented 7, where does it want to go? It's going to go to the same place. F. Knowing how chords move from one to the next is a major, major, major important part of being able to play with freedom. If you're hearing relaxing sounds, you're probably hearing a major 7 chord occurring. My phone is ringing again. I apologize for the phone, but that's the way it goes. Sometimes the phone rings constantly. The right hand is playing chordals. That's too much information for right now. We won't worry about chordals. In Piano Magic, the online workshop that's associated with this website, if you'd like to learn more about chords, where they move to one to the next, how chords connect from the beginning of a song to the end of a song, whether you're playing by ear, improvising, or composing your own music, you got to know how chords move. If you're only reading music, just look at the symbol. Think of the rules of how to decipher what that chord is. And if you can't figure it out, come to the chord finder above. Or you could drop me an email. Tell me what your troubles are. If you're having a problem, if I can help you figure it out with a simple comment or a simple video, I'll be more than happy to do so. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful time playing. Playing is the most fun thing I have ever done. I've been doing it for 50 years now. And it makes my heart sing every day. Hope you're having a good day. Thanks a lot.